August 25th, it's day 237 in the 1 year Chronological Study Bible. It's the New Living Translation and it's put out by Tyndale. The day of judgment has arrived, just as God promised. In the 11th year of Zedekiah's reign, Jerusalem breached by the Babylonians. King Zedekiah is captured and his sons are killed before his very eyes. Afterward, his own eyes are put out. Ezekiel 12:13. Yet although the surrounding nations would perish, Israel would be regathered and rebuilt. Were it not for the promises of God regarding Israel, they too would cease to exist. Israel would be kingless and subservient to the Babylonians and the Persians until they returned to their land and rebuilt. Even then, they would serve the Greeks and Romans over the succeeding centuries. Then, when the King of the Jews appears, only a few would recognize and believe in him. Both testaments describe God as patient. Numbers 14:18 and 2 Peter 3:9. Israel's persistent disobedience magnifies both God's slowness to anger and his faithfulness to his promises. The effect of Tyre's destruction. Ezekiel 26:15-21. This is what the sovereign Lord says to Tyre: the whole coastline will tremble at the sound of your fall, as the screams of the wounded echo in the continuing slaughter. All the seaport rulers will step down from their thrones and take off their royal robes and beautiful clothing. They will sit on the ground trembling with horror at your destruction. Then they will wail for you, singing this funeral song. We're going to go back to this captivity era and figure out what they're teaching us. The captivity era, it says discover the story. It's from about 586 to 538 BC. Because God is future oriented, he embeds both warnings and promises in his word. He warns Adam about death before the fall, Genesis 2:15-17. Noah about the flood many years in advance, and Abraham about Israel's slavery and deliverance, Genesis 15:13-14. God does nothing without warning his people ahead of time. After God promises to bless an obedient Israel in their land, God has Moses warn the people of a future captivity by a foreign nation that would come as a consequence of Israel's persistent disobedience and apostasy. Israel could not say they were not warned. It says, I will make your cities desolate and destroy your places of pagan worship. I will take no pleasure in your offerings that should be a pleasing aroma to me. Yes, I myself will devastate your land, and your enemies who come to occupy it will be appalled at what they see. I will scatter you among the nations and bring out my sword against you. Your land will become desolate, and your cities will lie in ruins. Leviticus 26:31-33. Moses repeats this warning to the second generation of Israelites as they prepare to enter the land promised to Abraham's descendants. This is part of Deuteronomy 28 in 63-65. And Deuteronomy 28, 1-14 is where the promises are if they follow all the rules of the covenant. So when you get past verse 14, then you go into the curses. And this is verses 63-65. Just as the Lord has found great pleasure in causing you to prosper and multiply, the Lord will find pleasure in destroying you. You will be torn from the land you are about to enter and occupy, for the Lord will scatter you among all the nations from one end of the earth to the other. There you will worship foreign gods that neither you nor your ancestors have known, gods made of wood and stone. There among those nations you will find no peace or place to rest. And the Lord will cause your heart to tremble, your eyesight to fail, and your soul to despair. Deuteronomy 28:63-65. Solomon's dedicatory prayer for the temple also refers to a future captivity that would result from Israel's disobedience. If they sin against you, and who has never sinned, you might become angry with them and let their enemies conquer them and take them captive to their land far away or near. 1 Kings 8:46. Isaiah references Judah's forthcoming Babylonian captivity when he rebukes King Hezekiah for showing off all his treasuries to an envoy from Babylon. The time is coming when everything in your palace, all the treasures stored up by your ancestors until now, will be carried off to Babylon. Nothing will be left, says the Lord. Some of your very own sons will be taken away into exile. They will become eunuchs who will serve in the palace of Babylon's king. 2 Kings 20:17-18. God also gave the nation of Judah a visual warning. In 722 BC, they witnessed the Assyrians take the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom of Israel into captivity. Israel had ignored God's repeated warnings and persisted in their idolatry, so God removed them from their land. 2 Kings 17:1-23. God's past words and deeds serve as a predictor for Judah's captivity by the Babylonians. They had been warned repeatedly, even recently by Jeremiah, who spoke of a 70-year captivity. Jeremiah 25:11. But because they refused to heed God's word, God sends Judah into captivity in 3 waves. The first wave occurs in 605 BC during the reign of King Jehoiakim. Many of Judah's court officials, along with Daniel and his friends, are taken to Babylon. That's in Daniel 1. The second wave occurs in 597 BC and includes King Jehoiachin and his officials. Many of the exiles are taken to a refugee camp where God calls Ezekiel to a unique ministry, Ezekiel 1. The people question why the God who promised Abraham a special land would remove them from that land. God gives Ezekiel numerous visions that clarify his answer. Israel has abandoned God, and God would not dwell among a people who defile his name. His glory departs from the temple, from Jerusalem, and from the land. Jeremiah writes a letter to the exiles urging them to flourish in Babylon and promising them that after 70 years the Lord would bring them back to their land. Jeremiah 29:4-23. In 586 BC, the king of Babylon invades Jerusalem again, destroys the temple, and takes most of the people captive to Babylon. God's warnings had become reality. Yet, even in his lament over Jerusalem's destruction, Jeremiah finds hope in the character of God. The faithful love of the Lord never ends. His mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each morning. Lamentations 3:22-23. In the midst of this tragic time in Israel's history, God raises up prophets and speaks through them to lead his people. Ezekiel prophesies about God's glory returning to his people. In the royal courts of Babylon, Daniel prophesies about the Son of Man who would rule eternally. Daniel 7:13. Back in Judah, Jeremiah prophesies about God's promise to return his people to their land after 70 years, that God has plans of peace for them rather than calamity, to give them a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11. He calls the people remaining in the land to trust God and not flee to Egypt. The captivity era, Daniel 7:13, reveals a God who speaks. He promises to bless his people as they surrender to the Babylonians. He sets an expiration date to their captivity. He promises to bring them back to Judah after 70 years. The captivity era reveals a God who acts. He allows a fierce nation to besiege and destroy Jerusalem and to take the people into captivity in response to their continued disobedience. God keeps his promises of judgment, but he shows mercy to his people even in the midst of their judgment. He raises up prophets who offer hope for God's people. God reveals himself as faithful to his unfaithful people, holy in his departure from a defiled temple, and gracious in giving promises of hope. The Bible text for the captivity era begins with 2 Kings 25, 3 through 7. And now we are going to return to the scripture text. Whoops. Well, come on. There we go. Okay. We were to the funeral song. O famous island city, once ruler of the sea, how you have been destroyed. Your people, with their naval power, once spread fear around the world. Now the coastlands tremble at your fall. The islands are dismayed as you disappear. This is what the sovereign Lord says: I will make Tyre an uninhabited ruin like many others. I will bury you beneath the terrible waves of enemy attack. Great seas will swallow you. I will send you to the pit to join those who descended there long ago. Your city will lie in ruins, buried beneath the earth, like those in the pit who have entered the world of the dead. You will have no place of respect here in the land of the living. I will bring you to a terrible end, and you will exist no more. You will be looked for, but you will never again be found. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. The end of Tyre's story, Ezekiel 27, 1 through 25. Then this message came to me from the Lord: Son of man, sing a funeral song for Tyre, that mighty gateway to the sea, the trading center of the world. Give Tyre this message from the sovereign Lord. You boasted, O Tyre, my beauty is perfect. You extended your boundaries into the sea. Your builders made your beauty perfect. You were like a great ship built of the finest cypress from Sinir. They took a cedar from Lebanon to make a mast for you. They carved your oars from the oaks of Bashan. Your deck of pine was from the coast of Cyprus. Your deck of pine from the coast of Cyprus was inlaid with ivory. Your sails were made of Egypt's finest linen, and they flew as a banner above you. You stood beneath blue and purple awnings made bright with dyes from the coast of Elisha. Your oarsmen came from Sidon and Arvad. Your helmsmen were skilled men from Tyre itself. Wise old craftsmen from Gibal did the caulking. Ships from every land came with goods to barter for your trade. Men from distant Persia, Lydia, and Libya served in your great army. They hung their shields and helmets on your walls, giving you great honor. Men from Arvad and Helek stood on your walls. Your towers were manned by men from Gamad. Their shields hung on your walls, completing your beauty. Tarshish sent merchants to buy your wares in exchange for silver, iron, tin, and lead. Merchants from Greece, Tubal, and Meshach brought slaves and articles of bronze to trade with you. From Beth Togarmah came riding horses, chariot horses, and mules, all in exchange for your goods. Merchants came to you from Dedan. Numerous coastlands were your captive markets. They brought payment in ivory tusk and ebony wood. Syria sent merchants to buy your rich variety of goods. They traded turquoise, purple dyes, embroidery, fine linen, and jewelry of coral and rubies. Judah and Israel traded for your wares, offering wheat from Minnith, figs, honey, olive oil, and balm. Damascus sent merchants to buy your rich variety of goods, bringing wine from Helbon and white wool from Zahar. Greeks from Uzal came to trade for your merchandise. Wrought iron, cassia, and fragrant calamus were bartered for your wares. Dedan sent merchants to trade their expensive saddle blankets with you. The Arabians and the princess of Kedar sent merchants to trade lambs and rams and male goats in exchange for your goods. The merchants of Sheba and Raamah came with all kinds of spices, jewels, and gold in exchange for your wares. Haran, Cana, Eden, Sheba, Ashur, and Kilmad came with their merchandise too. They brought choice fabrics to trade: blue cloth, embroidery, and multicolored carpets rolled up and bound with cords. The ships of Tarshish were your ocean caravans. Your island warehouse was filled to the brim. The destruction of Tyre, Ezekiel 27:26-36. But look, your oarsmen have taken you into stormy seas. A mighty eastern gale has wrecked you in the heart of the sea. Everything is lost. Your riches and wares, your sailors and pilots, your shipbuilders, merchants, and warriors. On the day of your ruin, everyone on board sinks into the depths of the sea. Your cities by the sea tremble as your pilots cry out in terror. All the oarsmen abandon their ships. The sailors and pilots stand on the shore. They cry aloud over you and weep bitterly. They throw dust on their heads and roll in ashes. They shave their heads in grief for you and dress themselves in burlap. They weep for you with bitter anguish and deep mourning. As they wail and mourn over you, they sing this sad funeral song. Was there ever such a city as Tyre? Now silent at the bottom of the sea. The merchandise you traded satisfied the desires of many nations. Kings at the ends of the earth were enriched by your trade. Now you are a wrecked ship, broken at the bottom of the sea. All your merchandise and crew have gone down with you. All who live along the coastlines are appalled at your terrible fate. Their kings are filled with horror and look on with twisted faces. The merchants among the nations shake their heads at the sight of you, for you have come to a horrible end and will exist no more. A message for Tyre's king, Ezekiel 28, 1-19. Then this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, give the prince of Tyre this message from the sovereign Lord. In your great pride, you claim, I am a god. I sit on a divine throne in the heart of the sea. But you are only a man and not a god, though you boast that you are a god. You regard yourself as wiser than Daniel and think no secret is hidden from you. With your wisdom and understanding, you have amassed great wealth, gold and silver for your treasuries. Yes, your wisdom has made you very rich, and your riches have made you very proud. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says, because you think you are as wise as a god. I will now bring against you a foreign army, the terror of the nations. They will draw their swords against your marvelous wisdom and defile your splendor. They will bring you down to the pit, and you will die in the heart of the sea, pierced with many wounds. Will you then boast, I am a god, to those who kill you? To them you will be no god, but merely a man. You will die like an outcast at the hands of foreigners. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. Then this further message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, sing this funeral song for the king of Tyre. Give him this message from the sovereign Lord. You were the model of perfection, full of wisdom and exquisite in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Your clothing was adorned with every precious stone, red carnelian, pale green peridot, white moonstone, blue-green beryl, onyx, green jasper, blue lapis lazuli, turquoise, and emerald, all beautifully crafted for you and set in the finest gold. They were given to you on the day you were created. I ordained and anointed you as the mighty angelic guardian. You had access to the holy mountain of God and walked among the stones of fire. You were blameless in all you did from the day you were created until the day evil was found in you. Your rich commerce led you to violence and you sinned. So I banished you in disgrace from the mountain of God. I expelled you, O mighty guardian, from your place among the stones of fire. Your heart was filled with pride because of all your beauty. Your wisdom was corrupted by your love of splendor. So I threw you to the ground and exposed you to the curious gaze of kings. You defiled your sanctuaries with your many sins and your dishonest trade. So I brought fire out from within you, and it consumed you. I reduced you to the ashes on the ground in the sight of all who were watching. All who knew you are appalled at your fate. You have come to a terrible end, and you will exist no more. A message for Sidon, Ezekiel 28, 20-24. Then another message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, turn and face the city of Sidon and prophesy against it. Give the people of Sidon this message from the sovereign Lord. I am your enemy, O Sidon. and I will reveal my glory by what I do to you. When I bring judgment against you and reveal my holiness among you, everyone watching will know that I am the Lord. I will send a plague against you, and blood will be spilled in your streets. The attack will come from every direction, and your people will lie slaughtered within your walls. Then everyone will know that I am the Lord. No longer will Israel's scornful neighbors prick and tear at her like briars and thorns, for then they will know that I am the sovereign Lord. Restoration for Israel, Ezekiel 28:25 through 26. This is what the sovereign Lord says: the people of Israel will again live in their own land, the land I gave my servant Jacob. For I will gather them from the distant lands where I have scattered them. I will reveal to the nations of the world my holiness among my people. They will live safely in Israel and build homes and plant vineyards. And when I punish the neighboring nations that treated them with contempt, they will know that I am the Lord their God. The fall of Jerusalem, 2 Kings 25, 3 through 7, 586 BC. By July 18th, in the 11th year of Zedekiah's reign, the famine in the city had become very severe, and the last of the food was entirely gone. Then a section of the city wall was broken down. Since the city was surrounded by the Babylonians, the soldiers waited for nightfall and escaped through the gate between the two walls behind the king's garden. Then they headed toward the Jordan Valley. But the Babylonian troops chased the king and overtook him on the plains of Jericho, for his men had all deserted him and scattered. They captured the king and took him to the king of Babylon at Riblah, where they pronounced judgment upon Zedekiah. They made Zedekiah watch as they slaughtered his sons. Then they gouged out Zedekiah's eyes, bound him in bronze chains, and led him away to Babylon. Jeremiah 52, 6 through 11. By July 18th, in the 11th year of Zedekiah's reign, the famine in the city had become very severe, and the last of the food was entirely gone. Then a section of the city wall was broken down, and all the soldiers fled. Since the city was surrounded by the Babylonians, they waited for nightfall. Then they slipped through the gate between the two walls behind the king's garden and headed toward the Jordan Valley. But the Babylonian troops chased King Zedekiah and overtook him on the plains of Jericho, for his men had all deserted him and scattered. They captured the king and took him to the king of Babylon at Riblah in the land of Hamath. That's kind of important. It didn't say that in the other thing. We're in the land of Hamath. There the king of Babylon produced judgment upon Zedekiah. The king of Babylon made Zedekiah watch as he slaughtered his sons. He also slaughtered all the officials of Judah at Riblah. Then he gouged out Zedekiah's eyes and bound him in bronze chains, and the king of Babylon led him away to Babylon. Zedekiah remained there in prison until the day of his death. Jeremiah 39, 2 through 10. 2.5 years later, on July 18th, in the 11th year of Zedekiah's reign, a section of the city wall was broken down. All the officers of the Babylonian army came in and sat in triumph at the middle gate. Nergal-Sharezer of Samgar and Nebo-Sarsekim, a chief officer, and Nergal-Sharezer, the king's advisor, and all the other officers of the king of Babylon. When King Zedekiah of Judah and all the soldiers saw that the Babylonians had broken to the city, they fled. They waited for nightfall and then slipped through the gate between the two walls between the king's garden and headed toward the Jordan Valley. But the Babylonian troops chased them and overtook Zedekiah on the plains of Jericho. They captured him and took him to King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, who was at Riblah in the land of Hamath. There the king of Babylon pronounced judgment upon Zedekiah. The king of Babylon made Zedekiah watch as he slaughtered his sons at Riblah. The king of Babylon also slaughtered all the nobles of Judah. Then he gouged out Zedekiah's eyes and bound him in bronze chains to lead him away to Babylon. Meanwhile, the Babylonians burned Jerusalem, including the royal palace and the houses of the people, and they tore down the walls of the city. Then Nebuzaradan Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took as exiles to Babylon the rest of the people who remained in the city, those who had defected to him and everyone else who remained. But Nebuzaradan allowed some of the poorest people to stay behind in the land of Judah, and he assigned them to care for the vineyards and fields. And that concludes the August 25th Daily Bible Reading. Thanks for joining in.